So the last two ceremonies, if you want to use that word, they're not quite ceremonies, but are really positive mindset and self-education. So you can see in front of me here all these different books on nutrition and cancer. I'll just kind of walk through a little bit. So that's the self-education part, is really doing your own. I said this in the beginning, don't believe anything I say. Do your own research. Go down your own rabbit holes. And a lot of the supplements you see behind me over in here that we showed, a lot of these came from these books and all the research. And that's why I didn't get into the supplements so much for each and every one, but this is where they're coming from my own self-education. And the other one is a positive mindset. I made a pact with myself that no matter how bad it got, either with the treatments or my condition, that I would always have a positive mindset, even if I at this point were in hospice and near the end. And my doctors also talked about patients that they've seen having a positive mindset generally had better responses than those who didn't. And so there's different ways to do that. For example, one of my books here talks about one patient, she had, I think, breast cancer, and she'd watch comedies every night, so she would belly laugh. The idea of not only having a positive mindset, but having joy and moments of joy, not negative emotions like stress, anxiety, depression, despair, so on and so forth. So having, one of the ways that I did joy here in South Florida is going to the beach. Just the sound of the waves, jumping in the ocean, which also is healing. But yeah, just, being in nature more, whatever it is for you, meditation, prayer, deep breathing, but that sort of emotional intelligence, positive mindset. And then the other, like I said, is self-education. So just going through, I've read most of these at this point. There's two that I just ordered, but the other, so this is Killing Cancer. Actually, this was recommended, just as Jason Winter's story by Chris Beat Cancer, Tripping Over the Truth, Metabolic Theory of Cancer. Joel Foreman, I would say Chris Beat Cancer, which is Chris Work, and Joel Foreman, two big influences here. Eat for Life. He has a Nutrarian diet. Radical Remission by Kelly Turner, great book. This really details people that did standard of care, conventional therapies, and it didn't work, so they were sent home, or for whatever reason rejected it and went into remission. I wouldn't necessarily be a radical remission because I did chemotherapy, though to get a complete clinical response just after chemo, before chemo radiation, I'm essentially an anomaly or an outlier in that way. Sprout book, Doug Evans. You can see the sprouts behind me that I incorporate. And one thing I do, in addition, a lot of people do the broccoli sprouts for the sulfuran. I would say if you have cancer and doing the sprouting, add red clover sprouts to your broccoli sprouts. There's showing a lot of anti-cancer benefits. So I always mix the broccoli with the red clover. And in fact, in my super anti-cancer tea, which is actually going to incorporate Jason Winter's tea bags, red clover is the #1 ingredient. 12 keys to a healthy cancer patient, how to starve cancer, cancer secrets, Chris Beat Cancer. This is again the gentleman influence of Chris Work. His YouTube is Chris Beat Cancer. Beating Cancer with Nutrition, Beat Cancer Kitchen, Keto for Cancer. One thing I'll say is I was torn between the keto pathway and the sort of plant-based whole foods. My intuition guided me more to the whole foods plant-based, and that's what I decided on. Other people go keto. It's not what I did. I went more Joel Foreman, Chris Work. This is an anti-cancer living, anti-cancer new way of life. In the cancer community, you're going to see the term terrain. People will say, work on your terrain. You need to work on your terrain. And that comes from this gentleman, I think born in France, David Servan Schreiber, Anti-Cancer New Way of Life. And this is a sort of a companion piece that his friend, they were friendly with him, did after the fact. He actually got a recurrence at some point and passed on. But really informative. And how do you work on your terrain? Anti-inflammation, boosting your immune system, cutting out ultra-processed foods, things like muffins and chips and pretzels and sodas and things of that nature, and having more things like tea and hydrogen water, and going from an inflammatory, highly processed diet of fast food to salads, green shakes. So we have another Joel Foreman book, Super Immunity, Joel Foreman. This gentleman here, N of 1, I guess in the clinical trial, I think it's like if a clinical trial of 3,000 people be N of 3,000. This was sort of like this video, like I'm just showing what I did. He talks about what he did. Harvard documented remission of incurable cancer. Truth about cancer. This is one I'm reading now. It deals with the apricot seed kernels I mentioned earlier, as does this. Ralph Moss here was the journalist that lost his job because he leaked documents at Sloan Kettering. He was fired from Sloan Kettering. Years later, their apology essentially was they honored him. They said it was the closest he would get to an apology. So this is on that. This guy's very popular on YouTube, Nutrition Facts, How Not to Die. So, you know, I just took you through these briefly, but basically self-education. This could be a combination of books, long-form podcasts, like I mentioned, the Tucker Carlson interview with the guy Patrick, who runs the LA Times, who was started as a biochemist, cancer researcher, William Lee with Diary of a CEO, Joel Foreman videos, Crispy Cancer videos, and just learning through books and podcasts. So that is, again, the positive mindset. And even, you know, I would look in the mirror, and this is kind of hokey, whatever, and be like, you are going to be fine. You're going to beat cancer. Sort of like that Saturday Night Live segment, the joke of, you are good enough, you are strong enough, you know, where he talks to himself in the mirror. But I would do those sort of affirmations, and I would do it in the sauna along with deep breathing. So, yeah, so that's that here. And just a couple more things I want to show, which is the Super Anti-Cancer Tea and the Brooke Goldner's smoothie, along with the batch juicing that I'm doing, and that sort of my entire cancer protocol.